Hey, I'm Paul Notice. I'm an Emmy Award-winning producer, director with over a decade of experience, and I'm here to talk to you about incarcerated television shows.
There was a young man named Nick on there. He's 18 years old. The other participant on the show said,
Nick doesn't ask, but I can tell that he's hungry. I was like, from this moment on, I'm gonna make sure you eat. It's all about the way you carry yourself and who you feed, and you can get whatever you want.
I pay him noodles. I give him noodles. I feed him. So I'm gonna send him off to do whatever I want him to do so I don't catch a real assault case.
When you're oppressing people, when you're hurting those who I with that I call my family, you're hurting me.
And that young man wound up getting an altercation over a half a broomstick that they called a shank, and they sent him to the hall.
I feel bad, but I try to tell him life is like a game of chess. Think before you move.
And the other participant wrote a statement, and then ultimately you see the young man coming back to that pod. He came back to the same pod where the participant was sending him off for a noodle. And keep in mind, the producers have control over all that. So for them to send that young man back into the same pod with an individual and a participant who was sending him off, putting him in harm's way for views, I seen the hypocrisy firsthand on that show.
That was Lucky Chucky from A&E's 60 Days In, and he's referring to a growing part of the entertainment industry, one that thrives on creating reality television in prison settings, a term coined by researchers Allison Page and Lori Ouellette in their 2019 article published in the International Journal of Cultural Studies. Production companies like 44 Blue Productions, the ones behind Netflix's Jailbirds and MSNBC's Locked Up, have generated millions from shows like A&E's 60 Days In, Beyond Scared Straight, and Behind Bars, TLC's Cell Block 6, Female Lockup, National Geographic's Hard Time, Investigation Discovery's Women in Prison, MSNBC's Love After Lockup, True TV's Inside American Jail, and Court TV's simply titled Jail. These shows not only perpetuate racial and class mythologies, ones that particularly legitimize the prison industrial complex, but also directly participate in the exploitation of incarcerated people. Let's take a look at one show in particular to see what I mean. This is A&E's 60 Days In. Produced by 44 Blue Productions starting back in 2016, this show has garnered over 1.5 million viewers per episode. And it depicts daily life at Clark County Jail as an incessantly violent place filled with violent people. However, recent investigations have already begun to reveal that much of what is seen on the show is fiction. In their article, Page and Ouellette assert that 60 Days In normalizes racial and class injustices by demonizing the other. 60 Days In constitutes those rendered, quote, different as disposable and deviant, even as it reveals the pervasiveness of carceral logics and the ordinariness and normalization of mass incarceration in the United States. A&E pays $375,000 per episode. From that budget, A&E paid Clark County Jail $60,000 to film on their location for 120 days, so roughly $500 a day. Meanwhile, none of the incarcerated people featured in these shows are paid anything at all. Page and Ouellette sum up this cycle of abuse perfectly. 60 Days In hinges on the exchange of public infrastructures and the uncompensated labor of incarcerated people and prison workers as unwitting talent for the shows for resources like the latest surveillance cameras and otherwise prohibitively expensive body scanners. High-ranking prison officials operate not only as agents of discipline and control, but also as micro-celebrities and informal co-producers with their role in casting, setting, editing, and promoting the productions in which they appear. In response to this phenomenon, some activist groups are forming campaigns to abolish the prison televisual complex altogether, like America on Trial's AIRS campaign. Their mission can be laid out in 4 key demands. 1, a guaranteed minimum wage and the fullest consent to any incarcerated person being filmed or doing labor to benefit the show. 2, establish an incarcerated people's fund, holding at least 50% of funds earned by incarcerated people for post-release support. 3, require productions and networks to donate earnings to nonprofit reintegration programs for formerly incarcerated people. 4, full accountability to productions that investigate violence or worsen the living conditions of incarcerated people featured in their shows, or perpetuate the stigmatization of incarcerated people.
They exploited me, and they took my story and they twisted it to make it fit their narrative. And it's quite frankly sad. So when I seen what you were doing, that's what made me want to help out this campaign, because honestly, like you said, they're exploiting the United States justice system for views and for ultimately money, and they're not making really any changes. The only reason why they made change in that jail because that sheriff felt the pressure from legislators, from people in charge saying, why aren't you giving these guys haircuts or razors? Why aren't you separating mental health? It's not like the producers made them do that. The producers pay these sheriffs.
You can support the AIRS campaign by giving to Americans on Trial. Just follow the link below in the description or follow them on Instagram at AIRS Campaign. I'm Paul Notice. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you later.
Always question, always explore.